Welcome to The Power of Peer Support, a podcast about caring for people with substance use disorders. My name is Will Tari.
And I'm Samantha McClay.
In 4 short episodes, we're going to speak mostly to clinicians about why peer support is such a strong asset.
Yes, indeed. We welcome clinicians, also anyone who is supporting a friend or loved one in recovery. We also hope that employers will listen and consider offering peer support to employees.
As a psychiatrist, I've been treating people with substance use disorders for decades. I can tell you, it's very humbling.
In fact, Will is so humbled that he forgot to mention he's not just any psychiatrist. He's the chair of the Department of Psychiatry at Dartmouth Health.
Thank you. That's kind of you, Samantha. It's also kind of the point. I could chair psychiatry for the whole of planet Earth, and I still wouldn't have all the tools that would be helpful for me to care for people with substance use difficulties.
I think what you're saying is that recovering from substance use disorder requires more tools than medicine can offer.
Yes, much more, because addiction touches so many parts of a person's life.
And look, Will and I don't have all of the answers, but we do have an offering, especially to clinicians who'd like to do better for the people they serve.
Our offering is simple. We'll share what we've learned about the power of peer support.
Peers, as many of you know, provide social support to people in recovery. And Will and I think that adding peer support specialists to your clinical team is the biggest step you can take in strengthening your services.
You're going to hear from several people who can tell you more. First, Samantha, let me tell you that it's great to work with you. You've seen the power of peer support from both sides, in your own recovery and in the current work that you do as a peer support specialist.
That's right, and thank you, Will. I'll be right back to introduce our first guest. The best way to understand the power of peer support is to see it in action. So let's take a look at a program at Dartmouth Health called Moms in Recovery. Terry LaRocque is a social worker and the program's clinical director. Here she is recalling a memorable day back in 2016. She'd been on the job just a few months.
We probably had 12 women, and if you can picture this, with 12 or 14 women pregnant, feet up on their little footstools.
That's quite a picture. Terry was facilitating a group discussion and feeling nervous.
My background was in maternal child health. It wasn't in substance use disorder. So I went down there, a little bit worried and scared and didn't know what I was doing.
She started with some easy questions.
How are you feeling today? When was your last use of substances? Something that's a struggle or a challenge right now.
But there was someone new in the room. Sherry Breyer, a former patient, had joined the clinical team as a peer support specialist. Sherry jumped right into the conversation and left Terry speechless.
And she started sharing all about herself. And I was like, what is going on over there? It was my first experience with someone with Sherry's background and expertise, and I really wasn't sure what to make of it.
Picture Terry's jaw dropping. Here's Sherry, brand new, sharing her story about addiction, recovery, and her experience as a mother. Terry had never seen anything like it.
And with my social work training, your use of self is really looked at differently. We use ourselves differently. And we certainly don't share personal stories about ourselves with our clients.
Terry watched closely.
Sherry modeled sharing herself, being vulnerable, telling personal stories about herself and how hard she struggled, some of the disappointments, challenges, the guilt and shame, the difficult emotions that she personally experienced. It's one thing to say you've struggled and you have a history of substance use disorder. It's something else to sit there and really share the details of your story. She shares of herself around her parenting experiences and her grandparenting experiences.
She saw that Sherry's openness had impact.
That then gave license and opportunity for the women in the group to feel a little more comfortable sharing about themselves. You could just feel a sigh of relief. Oh, she understands what it is I'm going through. She gets it. She's a mom. She's struggled with substance use disorder. I quickly learned as I was working with her the value of what it was she was bringing to the group and how immediately relatable she was to our patients.
Immediately relatable. And so, patients opened up about their own lives. Terry knew she'd have struggled to achieve the same result.
I'm not someone with lived experience. I'm open about that with our patients. And it only gets you so far when you don't have lived experience. I can go to all the seminars, have all the coursework, have all the credentials, and yet I don't have that personal lived experience. And so she immediately had street cred with all the women that I was really working so hard to have.
Yes, Terry had coursework and credentials. Sherry had something else, street cred. And she seemed to connect most powerfully with the patients who felt the most alone.
They didn't and don't have people in their lives, family members who understand about addiction. Such incredible isolation.
Before Sherry joined Moms in Recovery, she was a patient. But one day she decided she wanted to give back. Here she is, recalling her pitch to the program director.
Like, let me just show you the magic.
The director agreed to give it a try.
They sort of laid it out like, we're willing to give it a try, but you won't be able to be a patient here anymore. And that was really hard because that was my safe place.
But Sherry took the leap, and she's been there ever since.
So as a recovery coach, I really strive to be the person I needed most when I was really struggling.
She strives to be the person that she needed most. And she tries to set an example that offers hope.
Like, if she can do it and my life is not much different than hers, I'm going to be okay.
Terry elaborated.
I want to be where Sherry is. I want that for myself. I want that relationship with my child. I want those relationships with my grandchildren. I want a job. I want my license. I want to clear my record. And seeing and witnessing Sherry being able to do that really gives them so much hope and a path.
What jumped out at you on that segment, Will?
When Terry said, you could just feel the sigh of relief, people really connected with Sherry right away.
Yep, and that matches my personal experience. It certainly doesn't always happen, but I've seen it happen almost instantly. It's intuitive, and sometimes it just happens.
You say it just happens, but can we try to explain what's going on?
All right. So let's imagine a person with addiction getting healthcare. Let's really try to walk in their shoes.
That's tough for many listeners, but yes, let's try.
So you get to the clinic or hospital, and before you even walk in the door, you're probably feeling nervous. That's because you've probably had at least one bad experience with healthcare. You start to talk with healthcare workers, but you don't feel like you have much in common with them. You probably get a wide range of interactions. Some workers do their very best to meet you where you're at. They try to make a personal connection, but others might mistreat you because of your substance use. And on average, the interactions feel impersonal and clinical.
Ugh. What about with peer support specialists?
The connection feels real.
Say just a bit more, Samantha. How do you know it's real? And how do you know it's real so quickly?
Honestly, it's hard to pinpoint. One signal is the way we talk, in natural language, in layman's terms.
But a good clinician makes every effort to do that.
Makes every effort. But with peer support specialists, no effort is needed. It's easy and it's genuine.
Okay, so there's a signal just in the way people talk. Is there anything else?
Probably. Let's talk about how healthcare workers present themselves. They carry a vibe that says, right away, I have knowledge, I know what to do, and I can help you. But people with addiction might not trust that knowledge. They might suspect that it can't fix their lives or help them recover.
And with peer support specialists?
Peer support specialists also have professional training, and we'll talk more about that. But the core strength is life experience, not book knowledge. They carry a different vibe. It doesn't say, I know how to help you. It says, I understand you.
So it's not actually about credentials at all. It's about shared experience.
Right.
From Terry's story, it sounded like Sherry talks about her personal experiences in great detail.
Yes, I know Sherry well, and she does. She shares everything. It's generous and it's effective. But it's not necessary. Peer support specialists deserve privacy just like everyone else. So there are different styles. Some peers have filtered versions of their own story, and some share stories about people they've been close to.
So peers' credibility doesn't come from the details of their personal story?
I'd say it comes from the ability to connect. And that skill comes from having been close enough to a certain kind of hardship.
A certain kind of hardship.
For people with addiction, it could be poverty, difficult family lives, physical trauma, emotional trauma, being around danger, or being around criminal activity.
That's really a lot of experiences.
There also might be a sense of being left out or looked down on by society, a sense of personal failure, or feelings of intense loneliness.
That's really daunting. And yes, most healthcare workers, probably the vast majority, have not experienced those things.
Exactly. And we'll be right back with another guest. Our next guest is Sam Landsman, a psychiatrist at Dartmouth Health. He runs a hospital-based team that treats a wide range of mental health issues, including addiction. Full disclosure, I work on Sam's team as a peer support specialist. I was not the one to interview Sam or edit the interview, but I am happy to be the one to walk you through his comments. So, let's get to know Sam a bit. He has quite a history. He worked with people with addiction even before medical school. He recalls that he
had some really good mentors in my professors in college, one of whom was the pre-med advisor, and the other one had helped me connect with an outpatient community mental health center. And I interned there in college, and then after college worked there for 2 years and was like, wow, like there's so many medical issues.
That inspired him to pursue a medical degree, to learn more about what he was seeing every day.
It's really important to have an understanding of both the underlying medical issues that folks are facing and the underlying psychological components.
Sam's been at it for years. As he sees it, one of the steepest challenges is simply getting people into treatment. It's a population that doesn't receive much health care. And to get someone started on treatment, you don't just need to see them. You have to catch them at just the right moment.
There are not enough services that can capture people when they're in a moment that they're motivated to engage in them. These diseases, substance use disorders, are incredibly powerful. It overtakes people's life. And so if the healthcare system is not there at the time when somebody has a moment of clarity and can grab the lifeline that can be extended.
So Sam focuses on engaging patients while they're in the hospital.
So let's say somebody comes in with an accidental overdose, they received emergency medical services, or, a friend who was with them gave them naloxone, but then they were also found to have an infection.
You're starting to see the opportunity. A patient is in trouble, an overdose, an infection, and maybe a moment of clarity. So someone on the team approaches the patient, and to be honest, it's rare for a patient to respond, "Yes, I want recovery." The signal that our team looks for is more of a not no than a yes.
A lot of what we do is explore ambivalence. We don't need somebody to say, like, hey, look at me, I'm ready to stop drinking or using. It's like, if you're willing to have a conversation about it, that's great. We're here.
Not no opens the door, but the conversation remains delicate.
I think meeting people where they're at is a major key. It's important to show folks that they're seen, that we're here to help. And if they're interested in recovery, we give them a lot of positive feedback for that. Like, wow, that's such a hard decision to make. Really, really good on you for doing that. It's amazing. How can we help?
Sometimes Sam has first contact, but he knows that he might not be the right person for this conversation.
They may see somebody with letters after their name is like, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, how could you understand me? It's harder for me as a doctor for someone to trust that even if I say, like, I'm here to help you, that they're going to believe me and that they're going to trust me.
Sometimes Sam can earn some buy-in because he can prescribe medications.
I help manage withdrawal pretty quickly. Somebody comes in, they're obviously looking like they're in opiate withdrawal. It's like, okay, let's give you some methadone or Suboxone right now and come back in like 3 hours, and they're looking a lot better.
Still, the first conversations are crucial. Sam's cautious.
Usually I don't tell people that, like, man, I know where you're coming from, like, because that rings very hollow to folks. You know, I try to be pretty unassuming and not too pushy.
And trust me, if you met Sam, you'd see he's being accurate. He doesn't come on strong. He's not imposing. He's approachable. Still,
You know, there's no magic words I can say. There's no magic things that I can do to connect with people. Are you interested in making a change in your use pattern? They're like, nope. They're like, not with you. See you later. It's like, okay. Or they'll yes me a bunch of times, but then it's like, no, like, thanks for the talk. Good talk. See you later.
because of these challenges, Sam often partners with the peer support specialists on his team. People like me.
That's also why I go in with our peer support specialists, because they have the lived experience.
And yes, lived experience matters.
They can say, I've been there and I know what you're going through. People will trust them. They're more likely to trust that they have their best interests in mind. The difference with and without a peer is really openness to even engage in the conversation of recovery.
Openness to even engage in conversations about recovery. And sometimes we spark hope just by showing up.
For them to look at somebody in recovery 3, 5, 10 years out and say, like, wow, I could get there, even if they're in this extreme sick state, is a really powerful, hopeful, unspoken message. You look so well, and I wish I could get there. Having even a small inkling of hope, I can see somebody who made it out of this hole.
It's not just the unspoken message. Me and the other peer on the team sometimes share personal experiences, and we emphasize recovery.
It's not just swapping use stories. It's like, this is my path to recovery. This is relevant to you.
Personal stories do work well, but Sam warns us about sharing too much.
Yeah, I think a curated story is really important. Everybody comes with their own baggage, and folks who are in recovery probably are carrying a little bit more than the average person. They're still in a professional setting and need to be professional. I think it's a skill and it's a piece of becoming a recovery coach to learn how to share their story in a professional, appropriate, and helpful way, and be able to bring out different pieces of that to meet patients in the right time, in the right place.
Still, the personal details can deepen the connection. Consider this scenario.
Somebody was saying, like, I feel really guilty about leaving my husband, which is a necessary part of her recovery. She's making a decision, like, I can't get clean unless I leave this guy who's also using, like, and I need to take my kids with me, I need to go to a safe place. But I feel really guilty about leaving him because I'm the person who got him hooked.
Sam can try counseling.
For me to say, like, you got to focus on your recovery, you can't be responsible for anybody else's. Like, I can say that.
But the peer support specialist has more credibility.
But for my recovery coach to say, when I was in my recovery, I also had somebody who was the one who gave me my first hit. And I don't blame them. I'm an adult. I did this. We're still friends. She's now in recovery. I'm in recovery. We kind of went our own way to get into recovery, not relying on each other. I think the depth of that story is so much more powerful.
But peer support specialists don't rely only on their own lived experience with addiction. They have other connections doctors typically don't.
They also probably have a better finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community than I might. Speaking the same language, I'm in the same community that you are. We're coming from the same place. We went to the same high school and got hooked the same way.
So, what are you thinking, Will?
I know Sam very well. Actually, I've known him for many years, and I know he's very good at what he does. I also know it's very hard to find physicians with as much direct experience in addiction and recovery.
Right. He was doing it even before medical school.
So what jumped out most was when he said, there are no magic words that I can say and no magic things that I can do to connect with people.
I think your point is, if Sam has none of this kind of magic, does any physician?
Who knows? Some may, but most do not. So I want physicians listening to notice Sam's humility.
His humility?
Yes, he's not a know-it-all telling patients what to do. He understands that he has limited ability to truly walk in their shoes. Also, he leans on his team. He knows that peer support specialists have skills that he does not have. If you like, I can share a story about how I developed a dose of that same humility.
I would love to hear it.
It goes back to the 1990s. I worked with a patient for many years, and we were extremely worried that he might take his own life. We brought in every resource we had: medications, therapy, case management, employment specialists, and more.
And then?
And then he just started to do better. And after a while, he started to do really a lot better. So one day, after some time had passed, I asked for his thoughts about his recovery. I asked, what mattered the most? In my heart, I thought he was going to credit me or our team for his improvement. A lot of people had worked extremely hard for him. So I was caught off guard and actually a little bit hurt when he said it was the relationship with peer support that mattered the most by far. He said that was when he developed hope.
And how did that experience change you?
It just opened my eyes to the importance of peer support. And yes, we had referred him to an outside agency for peer support, but I hadn't imagined that it could be the most important element in his treatment. My team and I tried to think of everything: brain chemistry, rehabilitation, emotional stability, employment support, life stability, safe housing. But I can see in retrospect that we paid too little attention to the need for human connection, the need for someone who understood his life, someone who could restore hope. In brief, we had really underestimated the power of peer support.
Thanks, Will. In our next episode, we'll talk about how people struggling with addiction are often mistreated when they seek care, and how those experiences make peer support even more relevant.
Great. See you then.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Department of Psychiatry at Dartmouth Health, hosted by Will Torrey and Samantha McClay. Special thanks to all of our guests. Editing by Kay Jankowski, Aaron Barnett, Greg Norman, and Mike Lawless. Script development, audio production, and music composition by Chris Trimble and Treehouse Audio Productions. Please see the show notes for more information.